Katie here, and it's that time again. It's time to talk about Shadowhunters. So, episode 12 was quite a lot. Jonathan is so creepy. He makes my skin crawl. I know I said last week I needed more time to decide whether I liked this new Jonathan. Not liked as in liked him as a person, but liked the actor in the role, whether he fit right as Jonathan for me. I think it's safe to say he's perfect as Jonathan. Also, I am getting into the habit of calling him Jonathan now. I hope you're all proud of me. Bye, Sebastian. So this episode follows Clary and Jonathan to Paris. Jonathan saying that he's taking Clary there because it's somewhere she wants to visit. As an artist, it's a perfect place for her. You know, all that sort of bullshit that he's constantly spouting out. In reality, he's actually looking for the Morgenstern sword. This isn't about brother-sister bonding time. This is about Jonathan getting a weapon. What I loved most about this episode is that no matter how much of a sob story Jonathan put across, Clary did not feel sorry for him. She was not swayed by him at all. From the very start, she was planning to make an escape if she could. She was eyeing up his stele. When they were having a talk in that cafe, she was eyeing up the lady's phone on the table. Can we talk about that scene where they were getting changed to go out? The way Sebastian was looking at her when she was getting dressed. Stop looking at her, you creep! Honestly, I want to protect Clary so much. And I know she doesn't need my protection because she's a bad bitch and she can handle herself. She has shown that time and time again. But oh my god, I do not want her anywhere near that thing. So they go wandering around Paris and Clary is playing up to this act of listening to him. What I especially loved is that when he was trying to give her the sob story about his burns and the time that he'd spent in Edom, she was still showing that what he did was wrong. No matter what you've been through, kidnapping and killing a person doesn't make it right just because you've been hurt in the past. Whilst they're on the way to this antique dealer to get the sword, Clary bumps into a Shadowhunter in Paris and manages to get his stele. Meanwhile, Jace is on board with Luke's idea that Clary has been taken off in the apartment. They have proof that the apartment did actually move, so they go there and hunt for her. Alec discovers a Shadowhunter in Paris reported his stele missing, so that leads them to Paris, whilst Jonathan is trying to get the sword off of this demon, who is posing as an antique dealer, living a quiet life. That demon was a legend, by the way. He was not taking any of Jonathan's crap. I love how he just corrected his grammar. That demon is my hero. And whilst that is happening, Clary is trying to send a message to New York, and that Shadowhunter finds her and drags her off. I've never been so annoyed. Just let her send the message. Of course, by the time he realises that Clary is telling the truth and that she is actually Clary Fairchild, Jonathan has found them and has stabbed his neck. Poor Clary in this moment. She was just so shocked. And there's Jonathan, the dumbass that he is, thinking that Clary looks so terrified because of the Shadowhunter. No, she's scared because you've just snapped her neck in the blink of an eye. So once again we have another conversation between the two of them where Jonathan is trying to convince Clary that they are the same, using the fact that she killed Valentine as a way to connect them. This is when Jace, Alec and Luke turn up, and of course they're about to kill him, but Clary tells them that they can't. She obviously grabs a knife and stabs herself in the leg because, you know, what else are you going to do in that situation? She has more balls than any of the men on this show. So we have this Clace reunion, which was all lovely and sweet, but then Jace is like, I always dreamed I'd take you to Paris, just not quite like this. And Clary's like, oh, somehow it's better. No, Clary, you've just stabbed yourself in the leg to get away from your demonic brother. How is that better? How? Oh, we need to have a sit down and talk about your idea of romance, Clary. I'm interested to see where things go from there. That scene with Jonathan at the end in the apartment was so terrifying. I love how it was just silent whilst he was destroying the place. It was just perfectly done. Yeah, he scares me and I'm scared to see what he does next. Elsewhere in the show, we have MALEC. Let's talk about MALEC. I really want to talk about MALEC. The MALEC that we got in this episode It was everything that we deserved and more. A training scene! Honestly, one of the best training scenes that we've had in this show. I'm always trash for the training scenes anyway because I love getting to see them fight. It's even better when it's two people who are attracted to each other and there's flirting involved. Of course they turned it into a competition, and of course it turned into them flirting shamelessly, and of course it turned into them being in bed together. Because, you know, where else would that scene have gone? So with Magnus losing his magic, the one thing that I completely forgot about in this situation is that he is now mortal. Now, the one thing that I've always hated about Malec in the books is the whole immortality thing. I hate that Alec is mortal and that Magnus isn't. It's caused so many problems, so much pain and sadness. In this episode, we were reminded that without his magic, Magnus is going to grow old. What was great is that Alec knew straight away that something was bothering Magnus beyond not having the magic, but he does open up to Alec and admits that because he's been alive for so long, 40 or 50 years seems like such a short time to him, and he's running out of time to see all the things that he wants to see, and that he'd taken that for granted in the past. Alec has to remind him that 50 years is still enough time. The scene towards the end of the episode where they were doing some sightseeing and Magnus was rushing off everywhere taking pictures. I love how Alec reminded him that they need to take time and savour these things. It's not about what they do, it's the fact that they're spending time together, and that's more important. I just loved everything about their relationship in this episode. Obviously, it's going to be difficult for Magnus, and it's going to feel like things are passing by too quickly. But Alec's not there to solve his problems, he's there to help him see things more clearly. I just love how healthy their relationship is. When they have problems, they might bottle it up for a little bit, but eventually they discuss it and they get through it together, and it's just everything we deserve. But now I am really conflicted because as much as I want to see Magnus have his magic back, the immortality thing is still something I hate. So I want him to be the amazing warlock that he is, but I still like the idea of him being able to age with Alec. But I know what this show is like. They've got to give Magnus his magic back at some point. I can't see him not having magic for the rest of the season, but I'm just worried that when he gets that magic back and his immortality returns, what sort of problems is that going to cause if they get used to the idea of them being a mortal couple that are going to grow old together? I don't know. There's a lot to think about. I just hope that they continue being as open as they are now, continue having wonderful conversations. I love them so much. In terms of Malec, this episode was a blessing. So now moving on to everything else that happened in this episode. Sizzy hours are officially open, but it's already sad as hell. So I had a feeling that Izzy was going to accompany Simon on his journey to find this very ancient vampire. Maya had to step aside so that Sizzy could begin to form. And as much as I love Maya, and I actually did like her relationship with Simon in the show, which is something that didn't happen for me with the books, I love Sizzy and I want Sizzy. But of course this is Shadowhunters, things are never easy. So, you know, it's not going to be all fun and games and cute flirting. It's going to be pain and suffering and hard times, and that's exactly what's in store for us. So this ancient vampire who's hiding in the sewers turns out to be Kane himself. I wasn't really expecting that one. Also, I do think it was a little bit too easy for them to find him. I mean, they managed to find him within the first part of the episode, just by strolling a little bit further into the sewers than Izzy had been before. How has he gone unfound all this time? If he's this big of a legend that Raphael made him out to be, you'd think that somebody would dig around a bit further and find him. I don't know, I feel like maybe the Mark of Cain thing should have gone on for a little bit longer, maybe have them searching for a couple of weeks, but no, they found him really quickly, and he turned out to be Cain. Seemed like quite a nice guy, actually. His chat with Simon was quite friendly. Didn't really expect it to go down like that. Yeah, I felt really sorry for him. He was just terrified of hurting people. Justice for Cain. I don't know whether that's the last we're going to see of him. I don't think so, otherwise why go through all of this? I don't know whether Kane's going to reappear. I think I'd quite like to see more of him, just because it seems a bit of a waste to have them search for him, find him in a subway, have a lovely conversation and then just leave it there. But he gives Simon this stone to take to the Seelie Queen that will help remove the mark. So we ended up back in the Seelie Court for the first time in this half of the season. I always love going to the Seelie Court. It looks so pretty. I know it's not pretty, but it looks pretty. We got to see Meliorn again as well. Oh, the little comment he made about wanting Izzy to come and see him with her friend. Meliorn's down for a threesome. You know, who can blame him? Have you seen Izzy and Simon? So the ritual to remove the Mark of Cain is of course deadly dangerous. When are things like this not? The Seelie Queen tells him how dangerous it is. He doesn't care. He doesn't want to hurt anyone else that he loves. This whole thing seemed over pretty quickly. Like, this whole Mark of Cain storyline has just happened so fast. But Simon does end up almost dying, and the Seelie Queen tells Izzy that he needs blood, so she gives him blood. But then we realise that Simon needs to bite her in order to survive this. So we've got Izzy's battle with her addiction to vampire venom. Obviously, if Simon bites her, she's going to go downhill from this as well. And she assures him that it's fine, as much as he doesn't want to do it. And she's telling him it's going to be okay. It's not going to be okay. I'm so sad that it had to come to this. But I do understand it as well, because in the books, Sizzy grow closer after everything that happens in City of Glass, and we know that in City of Glass, Max dies, and that changes a lot of things for the Lightwoods. Whereas in the show, there's not really been much for Izzy and Simon to bond over. There's nothing that's pulled them together. So I think this is going to be that thing. But I just hate that it has to drag Izzy back into this whole horrible world with her addiction that she had to go through, because I hated that storyline. It was horrible. And I know that this is just going to make Simon hate himself even more. Especially when he finds out Clary's not dead. He went through all this guilt thinking she was, and now he's going to feel guilty because he's affected Izzy. Oh, poor Simon can't catch a break. And poor Izzy deserves better than this. Who knows where the storyline's going to go? I don't have a clue. But we'll see what happens. All I have to say is that I'm stressed. I'm stressed about everyone and everything. So that's about it that I can think of to talk about this week. As always, if there are things I've forgotten to mention that you would like to discuss, feel free to leave them down in the comments. Please do tell me all of your thoughts on this week's episode. I liked it a lot. I think the pacing was really great. I think in Shadowhunters it is quite easy to feel overwhelmed when there's so much going on at the same time. But this week seemed to work out, even though it had a lot of things. I am terrified for the future of Jonathan and where it's going to go in terms of the story, because I feel like Shadowhunters could go anywhere at this point. It doesn't have to follow the books anymore. So I'm interested to see what they come up with. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next week.